Thank you so much, Krishna. And hi, everyone. I'm Avantika from Protsahan. So good to see everyone back together on after April, meeting again. So I think that's really, really nice. I'll quickly jump into it. I know we might be short on time, so I'll quickly talk about how our pilot has gone, what we have built, how we have built it, and what we learned over the past, especially 2 months that we've been rigorously building it. Um, just a quick start. So, Protsahan is an organization that we've been working for over 15 years with young adolescent migrant girls in high adversity environments. And we built Care Buddy as a AI thinking partner on WhatsApp, which is built for frontline social workers and caregivers who work with vulnerable children every day. So frontline caregivers, social workers, ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, counselors are often the first and only person a vulnerable child interacts with in a crisis. And they face complex situations. They need to recall legal frameworks and need to think through their response, often with no one to consult in that moment. Um, so this is about CareBuddy's first use case, which is called Help for a Situation, where a caregiver can describe a real situation that they are facing or navigating with a child, and CareBuddy helps them think through it. It is not a legal advisor. It is not a clinical tool. It is just a thinking partner. And the thinking partner wala phrase was actually coined by our pilot participants during the pilot, that it's not an authority, it's positioned as a thinking partner, never an advisor. So this is about our pilot. The pilot was called First Voices, and our participants were positioned as contributors, not evaluators. As contributors and evaluators, not as subjects. So I think that was one of our single most important onboarding decision that we'll also talk about in the next slide. But we ran a 2-week pilot. This is the pilot structure that we followed, because we decided on doing a short pilot to understand some basic learnings in terms of our objectives were how accurate is our AI, how accurately are the answers coming through. And that was one of actually our biggest learnings, which we'll talk about ahead as well. We had caregivers from across, we had about 40 frontline caregivers across 5 role types, including social workers and counselors, child protection officers, and Anganwadi and ASHA workers. And this was a 14-day pilot that we ran. The next step, which I spoke about, one of our single most important onboarding decision was that we decided not to ask our participants to adopt something new in a vacuum or in isolation. So we actually onboarded participants to the pilot as part of a CareVerse training workshop that they were already attending. And we embedded the Care Buddy pilot into that workshop. And it was a training program that participants already knew and trusted. And we also positioned the participants as co-evaluators from day one. That changed the entire relationship with the product itself during the pilot. And we also did a live demo session during the pilot, so we could actually answer a lot of questions that came through that day. One of our aha moments was actually on day 0 during the onboarding, where our participants actually set boundaries for Care Buddy, like right on day 0. Boundaries in the sense of what happens if a child accesses my phone and uses Care Buddy, what will Care Buddy talk to them? So there was a lot of fear of the AI hallucinating or AI psychosis, which is a very real thing in today's world. So these are some of the boundaries that were set by the participants themselves from day 0 onward. This is about how we gathered feedback. So we designed a multi-method feedback approach. The pilot insight tracker especially was an internal tool where we had a daily log, we had weekly synthesis sheets, and we had FGD notes and emerging insights as well. And feedback also came from the participants directly via a WhatsApp poll, which we did mid-pilot. We did a short 3-question WhatsApp poll on a WhatsApp group that we created for the participants to stay in touch and to share their feedback with us on the group. So we did a poll there. And most importantly, the FGD that we did towards the end of the pilot was where we actually showed the participants real transcripts from conversations in the past 2 weeks during the pilot, we actually took a couple of screenshots and we showed those transcripts to the participants during the FGD. And we asked them, is this accurate? What do you think is missing in the answer? Or what would you say differently in this transcript? So that was a very rare, but a very rare thing to do, but also that was one thing that made our pilot very genuinely evaluative as well, and also gave us the actual accuracy of the AI that we were looking at. And of course, baseline and endline surveys were done before and after the pilot, and the Glific platform analytics that we get from the BigQuery and Data Studio, all of these. So that's how we gathered feedback. These are some of our key learnings. The accuracy paradox being the topmost learning, in the sense that where participants said that CareBuddy is clear and understandable, but not always fully helpful. This came especially in the sense of POXO and mandatory reporting, because one of the guardrails that we had established for CareBuddy is that in any instance, if a caregiver is describing a situation of abuse to a child, the care buddy has to acknowledge the situation and immediately only say mandatory reporting POXO, under POXO. So that was a guardrail that we had established. And in this same guardrail, during our FGDs, all of our participants actually said that we are caregivers and we want some real actually guidance. We don't want CareBuddy to sound like a legal advisor or have the tone of a legal advisor, because CareBuddy was constantly repeating mandatory reporting without any empathetic or actually grounded response. So that's what we are calling the accuracy paradox, where high clarity is not always equal to high practical utility. And it was a key design problem that we had to solve, and I'll also show you that in the next slide. The second, co-thinker, was a term that our participants coined during the FGDs, where all of them unanimously agreed that it's a co-thinker. So that, I think that was a very good aha moment again for us. Then we had the well-being use emerged organically, where we had a couple of participants actually tell us that, hey, I want to use CareBuddy for my own well-being. Can I use that? And that is not something that we had planned for, but it turned out to be very, very valuable for us. And like we'll see in the next couple of slides, our next new use case is actually care practices for caregivers and for the children that they support. So we are splitting that into two branches. And then lastly, there was a legal age gating, which was a failure, in the sense that if a participant was talking about a 22-year-old married girl to the bot was still referencing to POXO, which did not make sense. So then that was something that we reiterated in the prompt for the AI assistant. And these are just some of the iterations that we made, as I spoke about. And the golden Q&A evaluation set is something that I think all of us are familiar with as well. This is just a quick thing on how we iterated on flows, prompts, and the knowledge base. Overall, our iteration loop was observed. So we had the daily log, like I mentioned, the pilot insight tracker. We had Glyphic analytics and WhatsApp signals. Then we had weekly team reviews of these patterns. There were patterns that we were noticing. So we synthesized those patterns. Then we hypothesized, trying to find the root cause, identify, was it the prompt, or was it the knowledge base, or was it the structure of the flow itself that was the problem. And then we did a change, which we also tracked in a tracker with a before and after tracking, with complete rationale as to why this was done, so that we also have future learnings. And in the future, anybody who comes onto CareBuddy within the team can actually just go back to one document and knows exactly what has been done on the bot in that sense. And then evaluation, of course. The mandatory reporting, what I was talking about in the earlier slide, like I said, CareBuddy was triggering mandatory reporting advice reflexively without first supporting the caregiver to actually assess the situation carefully. So then we updated the prompt, and we updated it with a 7-step child-centric, survivor-centric process informed by Samvad and NIMHANS, prioritizing the child's safety and the caregiver's thinking while preserving the legal safety flow. Because obviously, of course, there can be there's a lot that can go wrong when it comes to child abuse and talking about the legal pathway. So, of course, we have to maintain our legal safety floor and we have to maintain our guardrails of mandatory reporting. But can we actually support the caregiver better in terms of how to prioritize the child's safety and the caregiver themselves before they actually go ahead with mandatory reporting? So that was a prompt change that we did as well. And then this is what's next for us. We are building two new use cases. One is Care Academy, which is about 10 to 11 courses on understanding trauma, mental health, child safeguarding, and more topics. This we are planning to make it a rule-based flow with AI-assisted gamified learning for frontline caregivers, where essentially we're thinking of it that way. We're yet to pilot it. Our next pilot hopefully starts soon with over 100 participants. And so I'm hoping to have Care Academy and care practices active by that pilot so we can also pilot how these work. As well, this will be more of a capacity building, sort of skill building tool for frontline caregivers that they can access. And care practices, like I mentioned, was one of our bigger learnings where users and participants actually told us that they want to use Care Buddy for their own well-being and their own regulation and for the children that they support. So we're splitting this into two branches where a caregiver can select to can choose to find care practices for themselves to regulate themselves, and we are entirely making it very creative. So care practices and regulation practices, for example, the Brahmari breathing technique, right? The humming bee breath technique, or rhythm tapping, or free doodling. So activities, creative activities that a caregiver can use to regulate themselves or a child that they're working with. And like I said, this was born from the well-being use case that emerged during the pilot. So this we're planning to have illustrated cards and audio guides via GCS or so that the AI, this is a full AI use case. And so the AI can also send out illustrated cards for each activity or audio guides wherever the activities require it. And then lastly, these are some of the key takeaways that we think that every NGO should know while building a chatbot. So like I spoke about before, that we embedded onboarding in what people already do. Don't ask them to start something new in a vacuum. That makes it challenging to actually keep them a part of the pilot. Positioning users as co-evaluators and not subjects, and it entirely changes the quality of the feedback that we received during the pilot, because I think I mentioned this like 5 or 6 times to the participants during onboarding that, hey, we are not testing you, you are testing us. So positioning them as evaluators was very key to how they viewed the product or how they even viewed the pilot, right? Or the value of the pilot itself. And then, like we discussed, we built a multi-method feedback system before launching. Obviously, we're not ready to launch yet. There's another pilot to go, and then maybe another third pilot as well before we're ready for launch. And in that, we will continue to have multi-method feedback systems. Surveys alone will not give us enough data to actually understand what's needed or what's working and what's not working. And then we track every prompt change in before and after format and build evaluation sets to test these changes. That's another very key thing while building a product. And then lastly, listen for what users do that you didn't design for. And that's where the next feature lives. So these are just a couple of things that we thought every NGO should know as we all build a chatbot together. But I'll quickly stop here. I think this was it from the presentation from me. Are we doing questions right now, Krishna, or after the three lightning talks?
Yeah, we'll do after the three talks just in the interest of time. Thank you so much, Avantika, for the amazing talk. For me, the top two takeaways are how to embed the onboarding into the existing system rather than introducing separately, because you never know like what exactly failed. Was it the bot? Was it the use case? Was it the way it is built, or was it the on-ground setup? So that's wonderful, and that's one thing which most of you should be also implementing it. Second thing is the iteration loops, their team has like a detailed sheet, like every week they track like what was told, what was done, and everything. So, and like one is having that iteration, two, making a note of that, like making a note of it at every step helps you to know what are your assumptions and what is actually said. So these are two, for me, the top two takeaways from Protsahan team. Thank you so much, Avantika and Riti, for being part of it and wonderfully sharing it. Thank you so much. Yes. So now we have talked by Surabhi. Surabhi is from Saturday Atlas. So, Surabhi, I will make you the co-host. You should be able to access.
Not able to
Sorry?
I'm not able to share my screen. One second.
You are the co-host.
Um,
You don't have this share option?
I do have a share option. I think some Zoom issues. Sorry. Can I just can you share the deck?
Sorry?
Can I share you the deck so that you can share it?
Yeah, sure, sure. If it's the same link, I can
No, no,
actually.
no, no. It's not.
Okay.
Uh,
Avantika, meanwhile, you have few questions on the chat for you, so you can keep answering them. And like others, if you have any questions for Protsahan team, you can put it on the chat and they can answer that.
Sure. So I see Rajesh's question first.
Yeah,
After,
I mean, sorry, you can answer on chat. Sorry
oh,
to
sure,
cut.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Uh, Surabhi, is it started?
one second. Uh, sorry. Just one thing.
Otherwise, do you want to go next? Maybe till the time you figure it out?
Sure.
Yeah, Arman, would you like to go meanwhile? Uh, so Arman is from Collective Good Foundation. They have implemented like a few interesting strategies for engagement. So yes, Arman will speak to you on that. I'll make you the co-host.
Yes.
You should have the share access now.
Yeah. So I think my screen is visible, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yes? Yup. Okay. Okay. So let me know if in case there's any section which is not visible, because sometimes my screen share it doesn't work well. Yeah, thanks Krishna and Glyphic team for organizing this mid accelerator demo day and inviting us for the lightning talk. So at Samyak, which is housed at Collective Good Foundation, we ran almost a 1 month pilot on our chatbot use case on climate change and health. So the reason why I also mentioned it initially as an adventure was that not only chatbot was a new sphere of domain for us, but also our use case itself is quite new, right? That how do you build projects or programs which are related to the intersection of climate change and health, right? The broader message that we just wanted to cover in this lightning talk was to how to connect chatbot with the users, right? Uh, in not in just in terms of technical processes by doing a training or just interacting with them time to time, but also analyzing what is happening on ground and how do you also the incentives and identities of our users and the chatbot together. So I'll select the next one. Yes. A small recap. Basically, we did this in two locations. One was a small city in Bahraich district of UP, which is very close to Nepal. So it's a very kind of a remote city that exists in the Bahraich district. And the second one was in Lucknow, where we did this with Sadikas. So Sadikas are community health entrepreneurs of Samyak itself. So those were the two use cases that we wanted to try, or not use cases, but two type of user segments that we wanted to try this bot with. Now, essentially, what this bot does is that it helps users to get alerts on weather conditions and their potential impact on health. So the potential impact of health and weather update is the new part. And second is it lets people ask questions to it. Many times we received messages from IMD on alerts, heat waves, or a rainfall, right? But many people have, I think Pooja has raised their hand in case.
Arman, sorry
Yeah,
to
Samyak, your slides are not changing. We are still seeing the first slide.
Okay, okay. Then I think, is it
You may
visible now?
stop sharing and reshare. Yes, now it's, yeah.
Okay,
No,
great.
again first, yeah. Now it's second.
Yes, yes. I think the slideshow sometimes stucks well. So I'm just
Actually,
sharing it
you've
this
not
way.
started the slideshow, some Arman, so you'll have to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I started the slideshow, but when I'm clicking next, can you guys see the change now? No, right? I'm
we
changing
can
it
also
here.
Yes,
see the
it is.
slide. I think even without slideshow, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. So that's what the chatbot is about. And we were from the first, I think, discussion that we had with the Glyphic team. Our question was that what we have seen on ground so far is that this will not work until unless we can send the message first, right? Because many of our users were not very comfortable with technology, especially in that remote area. In Lucknow, they were still better, but in that city, it was very difficult for users to remember the keyword and continuously use this to interact with us, right? Because unlike the other programs where we are closely connected to the community, this was a pilot that we wanted to see that if we expand this in future to frontline health workers, how this will actually work. So that was where we started from. Then we went for training, and that's the first story that that I want to talk about. So in Kesarganj, when we did the pilot, the training for the pilot, uh, I and Dr. Shilpa, we were on ground and we were very excited that we have thought of everything, whatever can go wrong, and try to fix it initially. And then we are introducing this chatbot to our users. But what we realized during that training process was, which Krishna also mentioned, that many of the users or the community that we had, most of them had blank faces, and that was not very motivating because I think there was some difficulty in connecting with the meaning of this technology and why it is related to them, why they have to use it. Is this another program of government that they just have to participate in? And looking at that in atmosphere, we also recalibrated on what we did wrong, right? And first thing was very simple, that we just used the word chatbot. There's no term that we could find it for Hindi or the regional language. So we just had to use this word. And we realized that that didn't ring a bell, or that didn't excite the users as much as we would have wanted. Second was that many of them they couldn't see the interactive message, and when the interactive message was there just yes or no, so they were looking at me and then they were asking what to do next. So that was not very motivating, that we have 1 month of pilot and how we will kind of pull this off. But fortunately we had the next day, and in Lucknow, where we had a more tech savvy audience, but this time we also wanted to connect this with them. So the picture that you see on the right, that was an AI image that we generated. And rather than using any chatbot name, we just use it as a Sadika AI, right? We also didn't want to use an English word to describe the chatbot, because that's not what our users are. Our users are called Sadika in this case. Maybe we could have used the same term with Ashas, like Asha AI or something like that. But with Sadikas, we could try this out, and I could also see while explaining this to them that many of them got excited, right? And the way we introduced it was like a person, because we were very sure that this chatbot will is going to break down initially, right? Many times it will break down. And I think in social sector space, we all know that sometimes if a tool doesn't work with the community, many of them stop using it at all, right? So that's what we wanted to convey to them, and I think that worked pretty well because the data points that I will share with you after this also show that how Sadikas were more closely connected to our chatbot instead of the Asha workers. So the first takeaway for us was like introducing the bot as one of them, right? Not a tool that they have to use, but it's a part of their whole program. Then that was the story that where we started from. But the first lesson that came after the training was done was that the book is definitely judged by its cover in this case. Because many of the users, in spite of us telling that this is an experiment, it will fail and we will learn, but many of the users were like, they were asking their questions. And because climate health is such a complicated domain that many times our bot broke down because it didn't have the specific things in its knowledge base, or the flow, the way we had designed the flow had some irregularities in it. So that takeaway for us was that it's very important that whenever we scale this up, especially in our second phase when we are going to open it to more new users, is that the first phase of breakdowns is very important to correct there and then. And I realized that a one way of doing this is to work through the active chatbot window. So if a user you can see in front of you, you can go to the chat window and see that they have not got an answer for their question or a failure has emerged. You can straightly prepare a message of apology and retrial and send them to those users which have not able to do their conversations in a meaningful manner. I think that was something we missed, and that is something we have noted down to do next time, is to work on these initial failures. Another interesting thing we saw in Kesarganj was that there was a cyber fraud that happened in that small town with an Anganwadi worker. And later, when we were exploring why there is such a low engagement rate at the field, we realized that this was one of the major factors that reduced the usage of the bot by the ASHA workers in that small town in the second half of the next month. So that was also very important for us, that the initial trust building and the initial failures are quite important to build upon. Second is so the message that you just saw here, this right area, it's an HSM message, which I just told you that we wanted to start from the beginning. And a few data points that we had was that we wanted to see whenever we are sending this HMS or an alert message, what is happening to the user engagement part. So one thing was definitely we understood that whenever we are sending nudges, people are not completely ignoring it. Compared to what we initially assumed, that maybe not many people will respond to it, but people actually responded to it, and they also asked questions. And we tried the three formats: sending a poster, sending a video, and also sending a document. And then just we analyzed that which one worked the most for the users, right? But going a bit in a bit more depth, we also realized that actually sending a alert, right, and maybe just increase the number of your messages which you can see in your dashboards. It's not a very simple way to analyze what it means, because this is what the image that I'm showing you right now. It's a more comprehensive analysis rather than compared to this, because we realized that although the number of people that we were sending HMS to and the messages that they were giving us back increased, right? But if we look at how many people uh, responded to us after seeing our HMS, right, per person. So the messages were not quite huge. So you had on general day we just had one or two active users asking one or two messages, right? But as you can see, when we sent the first HSM message to 37 people, almost 106 messages were recorded. This is from both the sides, from the chatbot and the users, but at least it was more than the average that we had. We sent the same message after one more week. By same, I mean the same heat wave alert message. It didn't activated a lot of users per message that way, but still we got a good engagement in comparison to our normal days. And the last one was that we sent a video link. That was a more difficult part to open it, because the way a video can be linked to your HSM messages, it's a bit tricky to do this, and maybe we will collaborate with Glyphic to learn more about it. But still we got 35 people with 55 messages. So the takeaway for us was that HSM does helps. We all know that users need nudges to work on, but it is also important to understand looking at these figures, not the overall messages, to understand whether your HSM is working, one. And second, can you try some other modes of HSM? Then the third one was that this question of why users will use it after the pilot, right? Because we realized that this is a very complicated domain, which is climate and health. And right now, people are asking because we are giving them ideas also in ground, and we are talking to them that you should ask questions on weather and how it will impact your health, learn more about seasonal diseases like diarrhea, dengue, malaria, right? But why users will ask this once the pilot is over? And we realized that many of our Sadikas and also Ashas, after we had a feedback call with them on chatbot, they said, this is all good, but how it can help us in our goal, right? So then I also asked them, like, what is your goal? Can you just define it a bit? So their idea was that we just want to increase our income. So both the user types that we piloted this with, we know Asha is an incentive-based worker. And similarly, our Sadika program is also an entrepreneurial model where they have to earn money by selling their services. So their question was how we can integrate these two things together. And from there, we got an idea that yes, we should actually work more on that, how this information on climate and health can be integrated to their incentives. So what are those four things which they should do in particular weather, monsoon, high humidity or high heat, and how they can sell their services instead of just spreading awareness to the community. And I think that was a powerful message that we got. The fourth one was that, okay, this was very interesting that many of our users who were more savvy, more youngsters who were already using ChatGPT and Google, they said it was like quite similar to what we use in Google or chatbot, right? How it is different. And then I also asked them this question when we were on a feedback call. And the other Asha and other Sadhika also responded that actually we noticed something different, that this knows something about us before, right? Because in Google or ChatGPT you have to give it the whole context, right? But then here what they realized was that it already knew a lot of things about them. And when it comes to climate and health, it also knew about their particular location. So they didn't have to add this information again and again like they have to do on Google, right? So that was another key takeaway for us, that no matter how detailed your prompt is, but if a user is facing no difference by using a normal chatbot and your Glyphic WhatsApp chatbot, right? Then logically it doesn't mean anything to them, right? Because after this pilot, they will continue going on Google and chatbot to use it. So that was another insight that we felt like that it should be meaningfully different, and we should also include that in our benchmarking, that how different responses are being generated in all of them. Before coming to the last slide, I just wanted to check upon how much time I have.
It's almost done, Arman. Like it's done. Actually, we are over
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So if
Then
you
I
can.
think I will just not summarize them in detail, but these were the four stories that we concluded with, which is lead with identity, not technology. First, breakdowns design trust, content and engagement needs a nudge, and tying it to what users are already doing or chasing is very important. So that's all from our side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arman, for the wonderful talk. And again, like one key takeaway which I want all of you to take from this conversation, like because there are many, but please, like don't expect the chatbot to run on its own or become a habit on its own from day one. You need to put efforts to build a habit. Like every app that you use today is built that way. Like they have done a lot of things for that to become your part of your lifestyle. So if you want to do that, like one, definitely the value add should be there, but you should definitely strategize to make that as a habit for your users. And HSM messages are a great way to do that. And we would really like you to experiment a lot on that in the next quarter. Uh, cool. So now we'll start with Saturday Art Class presentation. Surabhi, in the interest of time, can you make it like slightly more lightning?
Yes,
And
yes.
just for the rest of the team, like we'll take like another 10-15 minutes at max. And we'll take the question and answers on the WhatsApp group. So you can continue asking in the chat, but please feel free to take it on the WhatsApp group in case you want to connect to a particular rock. We'll be happy to do that connection as well. Or do you, Surabhi?
Cool. Okay. So just like to be quick, okay. So like this Saturday Art Class uses this Art Connect chatbot since almost like 2 to 3 years, where we basically uh, send teachers' lesson plans and like help them with guidance. So we piloted with like 64 government educators in Jammu and Kashmir, where we have been observing teachers sending images for so long, and then we realized they're just sending images for the sake of submitting because that's how they get the next lesson plan. So yeah, next slide, please. So this is the whole pilot, which is like divided into like three assistants that we used. So the first one is like we just used it to take lesson plans, like use the AI to generate summaries of the lesson plans, what the educator selects. So this is like a small example down here how it looks like. It just gives you list of materials, steps, and everything. Next slide. Second is like when the educator actually submits an image. Um, there's this GPT vision model that we're using it for image description. This is where like kind of magic happens, where it says ki, is it valid or is it invalid, and gives a small description of why it's valid and why it's not invalid. So yeah, like small example again, like here somebody has submitted like a mehendi art, so it's saying why it's valid. Yeah, next. The last step is like when we take the description we got from step 2 and the description that we got from step 1 and basically just combine it using some knowledge base that we already have that has all the grades description with it, and it just gives you like, hey, you've submitted an image for XYZ level and this is what it's matching it with, and this is how much percent it's matching, and if not then it shows you like how much percent it's not matching. Yeah, next. Yeah, so these are some more examples like you can just go through. Like some image that an educator has submitted and a response the AI has given. Yeah, next. So yeah, this is just basically what is happening. An educator is sending an image, Vision AI is checking plus giving a description. If it's invalid, we are just counting the number of submissions for now, and if it's valid, then it does the whole process of matching it with the description. Next. Yeah, so learnings were like, if we want to scale this, it's not exactly scalable because we have to make it a different assistant for every language as well as every organization, because we have a different lesson plans that we provide to them. So every time we have to scale, we have if we we will have to make new flows, new assistants, which is kind of taxing. Second, yeah, once it just like made up random lesson plans that do not exist. Like we are all for creativity, but yeah, I should calm down there. And like, yeah, so our next steps are basically just making sure we can uh, send this to the users. Right now, we are just letting it play in the background. No formal feedback is collected as such because like the responses are very vague for now, and also like a lot of experiments are going. Since it's like image, we don't have like proper way to understand what's happening with it. Also like art's subjective. Uh, yeah, I think that's it.